They told you Schopenhauer revealed the dark truth, that women only want men who don't care, that you must be cold, distant, sovereign. But the truth? Millions of men are wrecking their lives by following a philosophy that never actually existed. It's time to see how you're being manipulated with a fake Schopenhauer, and why his real philosophy actually frees you in a completely different way. Open YouTube, TikTok, or any platform. You'll see hundreds of videos with millions of views telling you the same story. Schopenhauer exposed the truth about women. They only want men who ignore them. Be cold, be distant, don't show care. That's the only way to win. The videos are well produced, dramatic music, quotes that sound profound, stories of men who gave everything and were abandoned. A contrast with alpha men who win because they don't care. Sounds convincing, right? Sounds like finally someone is saying the truth society hides, especially if you've been hurt. Especially if you tried to be good and it didn't work. Millions of men watch these videos and think, this is it, this explains everything. That's why I'm failing, because I care too much. But there's just one problem. Schopenhauer never said that. Worse, following this philosophy actually guarantees the opposite of what you're looking for. Loneliness, shallow relationships, emotional emptiness, and most ironic of all, the very rejection you fear. Why does this sound convincing? Many men have felt the sting of unreciprocated devotion and ended up hurt. In frustration, they latch onto explanations that blame love itself, instead of bad timing, mismatch, or simply incompatibility. The video's bold truth plays on that pain. You are handing her your crown, it says, and once she holds it, the game is over. When a caring man is treated poorly, it's tempting to believe something is fundamentally wrong with devotion. The myth wraps that frustration in supposedly philosophical revelations. For instance, it quotes Schopenhauer. The fundamental fault in the character of women is that they have no sense of justice. By isolating these lines, without context, the narrative feels like an undeniable law. This red-hot dramatic narrative uses vivid examples from the transcript. The man who does not care becomes the flame, and she the moth. And women are drawn not to fairness, but to power, not to devotion, but to distance. These lines paint a seductive picture, and it is easy to see why a hurt man might find them compelling. But are these extremes true in real life? As we'll see, no. This is a simplified, one-sided view designed to grab attention, not a balanced understanding of human relationships. Why did this clip go viral? It masterfully tugs on fear, rejection, and the desire for power. The script uses emotionally charged language, calling women enemies and men enslaved by devotion, to make viewers feel angry and betrayed. Loaded phrases like "worship breeds contempt" or "caring too much is the death of attraction" are meant to shock and provoke. This is a classic tactic, content designed to trigger your emotions rather than reason. Before you know it, you're nodding along, thinking, yes, finally someone telling me this truth. The videos also uses false binaries. They implies you have only two choices: either be a doormat who loses his identity, and thus women's desire, or be a distant alpha who holds his crown and wins her obsession. In reality, life is never just black or white. This is the false dilemma fallacy, presenting only two options when many exist. Real relationships have a middle ground: mutual respect, open communication, and healthy compromise. By hiding those options, the message forces you into a corner. Either dominate or be dominated. Another manipulation is selective quoting. Nearly every Schopenhauer quote in the clips emphasizes struggle, deception, or conflict. Nothing about empathy, creativity, or his positive ideals. Confirmation bias kicks in. You remember lines that fit your anger and ignore anything that doesn't. The clips doesn't encourage you to check sources or read further. It tells you exactly how to feel. Finally, notice the us versus them framing. Women are cast as cunning temptresses who must be resisted, men as blameless victims. This setup appeals to a sense of male victimhood or persecution, the truth no one dares tell us. It preys on the desire to feel powerful by being immune to deception, while also soaking up feelings of betrayal or unfairness. Psychologically, messages like this go viral because they promise a new secret. But remember, viral doesn't mean true. Viral content often exploits emotional triggers, and the best defense is to recognize the pattern. Is it really exposing truth, or just selling a strong emotional reaction? Let's fact-check the quotes. Did Schopenhauer really tell men to despise women's loyalty and worship only themselves? Well, he did write some bleak lines, but context matters. Schopenhauer was a 19th century pessimist who saw life as driven by a blind will to live. In Parerga and Paralipomena and his essay on women, he often described love in harsh biological terms. For example, he wrote, "The sexual impulse is the most complete expression of the will to live." In context, this was a metaphysical claim. Love and sex are how life, the species, ensures its survival. He wasn't giving dating tips. He was saying romantic love is often an unconscious drive, nature's engine, not some spiritual destiny. He also wrote that marriage is a trap which nature sets for us, and the man who marries gives up half his rights and doubles his duties. These reflect his view that marriage ties a person to lifelong obligations of procreation. Schopenhauer saw many marriages as burdensome, which makes sense given how hard life was in his era. But note, he wrote this as a general philosophical warning about commitment, not as a pitch to attack wives. He believed any deep emotional dependence can lead to suffering, so he urged people to preserve autonomy. The notorious lines about women, yes, he did say them. He wrote, "The fundamental fault of the female character is that it has no sense of justice." In context, he was explaining, in a very sexist way, why he thought women were more inclined to deceit. As the weaker sex, he believed nature gave them the arts of dissimulation, basically cunning, instead of brute strength. He even said, young women are given a wealth of beauty and gift of charm by nature, so they ensnare a man's fancy. Ouch, those are offensive statements by today's standards. But remember, Schopenhauer was not a relationship coach. He was a philosopher, projecting a worldview where human motives are governed by nature's will. His On Women essay is widely judged misogynistic. The key point, Schopenhauer's own writing is complex and often negative. He didn't offer a balanced self-help program. He critiqued human nature itself. He believed romantic love is often an illusion built by biology. But he also valued things like personal achievement and art as higher callings. In fact, he famously said genius is allied to melancholy, and solitude can be better than failed love. In short, his real message is, be aware that deep passion can blind you to reality. It is not simply be cruel or worship no woman, it is understand the biological forces at play. The viral script cherry-picks his darkest lines without that nuance. Contrary to the myth, real empowerment comes from honesty and balance, not fear. Psychology research shows that moderate kindness and respect are actually very attractive. For example, a study found that people perceived moderately generous men as most attractive, not the ones who went overboard sacrificing everything. In that experiment, men who gave half of their money to charity were rated more attractive than those who gave nothing or 80%. This suggests that extreme self-sacrifice can backfire, but so can total indifference. In short, it pays to be genuinely nice, just not to the point of losing yourself. Being confident and having your own life is attractive, but so is empathy and cooperation. In healthy relationships, caring and respect go both ways. Modern studies on mate choice emphasize traits like warmth, trustworthiness, and cooperation above dominance. Partners want someone reliable, who listens, supports, and shares power, not someone who treats love as a game of conquest. The myth ignores all that nuance. Real love isn't a zero-sum game where one person holds all the cards. It's a partnership. Being caring and supportive can build intimacy as long as you also maintain your own values and interests. Furthermore, Schopenhauer's philosophy also contains truth that can help any man or woman. He believed solitude and self-mastery are vital. Embracing your own goals and spending time alone doesn't make you bad or aloof. It can make you stronger. As one reflection on Schopenhauer's life puts it, contrary to the perception that solitude equates to loneliness, Schopenhauer suggests that solitude can be a source of strength and empowerment. When you pursue your ambitions, create art, or simply think deeply, you build confidence and self-respect. This isn't about dodging relationships, but about standing on your own feet first. Likewise, understanding attachment theory offers nuance. If someone pulls away, it might be due to avoidant tendencies, not mysterious feminine instinct. If someone clings, it might reflect anxiety. These are normal human styles. They don't mean love is a trap. The trick is communicating. For anxious partners, a steady reassurance matters. For avoidant partners, giving space and security matters. In any case, both people thrive when they feel respected as equals. That's far more empowering than any myth that pits men against women. In practice, the real lesson is, master yourself, not someone else's will. Cultivate your talents, be kind, and keep dignity. Schopenhauer himself prized intellectual freedom. He lived alone and devoted to writing. He wasn't happy, but he was free of illusions. We can learn from that. Hold your own life firmly, but don't fall into cynicism. Care about others, including partners, but with healthy boundaries. True confidence comes from knowing your worth and sharing love freely, not hoarding power. Here are some warning signs that a message is trying to manipulate you, especially when it claims to be the truth about something as complex as love. Selective quotes and out-of-context wisdom. For example, the Schopenhauer quotes often ignore his broader philosophy. False dilemmas and black-and-white framing. Watch out for claims that present life as an either-or, with no middle ground. The logic, either you worship her or she'll despise you, is a false dichotomy. Real problems usually have more than two solutions. If someone tells you there are only two ways to be a man, they're hiding other perspectives. Emotionally charged language. Manipulative content leans on extreme divisive words: enemy, slave, weapon, ice queen, etc. They're designed to trigger anger or fear, not thoughtful reflection. Ask whether the content is designed to trigger your emotions rather than your reasoning. If it makes you feel indignant or afraid of an entire gender, take a step back. Appeals to victimhood or superiority. Phrases like "the lies nobody tells you" or "you are the only one brave enough to see it" are red flags. They claim special insight while isolating you from other viewpoints. Scammers love victim narratives because anger makes people easier to persuade. Healthy thinking stays skeptical. No one holds a monopoly on the truth. Whenever you see advice about relationships or anything else that sounds absolute or sensational, slow down. Verify the quotes, question the motives, and ask yourself, are there other interpretations? Adopting this mindset turns you from a passive consumer into an informed thinker. The truth is that true confidence comes from respect and self-respect, not power plays. You deserve a partner who values you for who you are, not as an opponent in a game. Don't let catchy videos convince you that love is a zero-sum battle. Love isn't won by losing yourself, it's shared by two whole people. If something sounds too cynical or too convenient, dig deeper. Fact-check quotes, read beyond headlines, and remember, relationships are about partnership, not dominance. We all hold the sovereignty of our own choices, and empowering love grows from kindness, honesty, and boundaries, not from fear and suspicion. Was this helpful? Have you seen these myths before? Comment below and share your thoughts or questions. Let's question these one-size-fits-all stories together and build a better understanding of love and attraction for everyone.